The galaxy had always known the Apex Warriors as the strongest beings. Their power was unmatched, their skill in combat legendary. Planets trembled at their arrival, and civilizations bent to their rules. But today, something unexpected happened. A small human ship appeared at the edge of their territory, blinking into existence like a tiny star in a sea of giants. The warriors watched from their massive battle station. Their eyes, sharp and cold, studied the small vessel. Murmurs spread among them. Another weak species trying to survive? One warrior laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. They won't last a day here, another added. Humans had never faced the apex of the galaxy before. They were clever, yes, but fragile. The warriors thought this new arrival would be just another snack, another story to tell over the fires of their homeworlds. Yet, something about the ship made even the bravest warriors pause. Inside the ship, the human captain, a young man named Ethan, adjusted the controls. Sweat ran down his face, but his eyes were calm and sharp. He knew the risks. Every step beyond the outer borders of known space was dangerous. Yet, he also knew humans had something the warriors didn't expect. Courage, intelligence, and unpredictability. As the human ship drifted closer, the station's alarms blared. The Apex Warriors leader, Krylor, a giant with armor that glimmered like black stars, stepped forward. His voice was deep, vibrating through the station. "Who dares enter my territory?" he demanded. Ethan's voice came through the comms, steady and clear. "I am Captain Ethan of Earth. I come in peace. I mean no harm. I only seek passage." The warriors laughed, not a small laugh, but a roar that shook the walls. "Peace," one of them scoffed. "These humans think they can survive among us? They are toys playing in a lion's den." Krylor studied the human. There was no fear, no trembling voice, no hesitation. Most beings, when faced with him, froze. But this human, he stood firm. "Bring him to the arena," Krylor ordered. The arena was a place where newcomers were tested. Many had entered. None had left alive. It was filled with traps, alien beasts, and challenges designed to end lives quickly. Ethan knew what awaited him. Yet he did not panic. He prepared himself mentally. Every human he had ever read about in history had faced impossible odds, and many had triumphed. Maybe, just maybe, he could too. The gates of the arena opened. Ethan stepped in, and the roar of the warriors echoed above him. At first, the arena seemed simple, almost empty. But then from hidden doors, creatures emerged. Massive, multi-legged beasts with claws longer than a human's body lunged at him. Ethan moved with quick reflexes. He dodged, rolled, and used the environment to his advantage. Rocks, walls, and broken pillars became his weapons. The creatures were fast, but humans were unpredictable. Every move Ethan made was calculated, yet spontaneous. The warriors watched in disbelief. "Impossible," one whispered. "He moves too fast, too smart." Ethan was not strong like the warriors. He could not match their raw power, but he had something they lacked: strategy. He understood their attacks, predicted their patterns, and found weaknesses in every creature and trap. With every success, the laughter of the warriors grew quieter, replaced by curiosity and a hint of respect. Suddenly, a massive shadow fell over the arena. A creature larger than any Ethan had seen before roared. It had scales like black steel, eyes that glowed red, and teeth sharp enough to cut through the strongest armor. The arena shook as it charged. Ethan did not run. He took a deep breath and focused. Using the pillars and a hidden pit, he tricked the creature into a trap. It fell, roaring in fury. Ethan did not strike it down completely. He only immobilized it. He knew he had to survive, not destroy. Krylor's eyes narrowed. He had expected humans to flee, to beg, to die. But this one he fought with intelligence and heart. For the first time, Krylor felt curiosity, not just disdain. The warriors began to murmur among themselves. "Perhaps this human is different," one said. "No, he is impossible," another replied. Ethan moved forward, navigating the arena carefully. Each step brought new dangers. Traps that shot flames, spikes that erupted from the ground, creatures that appeared from nowhere. Each time, Ethan survived with clever thinking. Sometimes he ran. Sometimes he used his environment. Sometimes he made the creatures fight each other. Every time, the warriors' disbelief grew. At one point, Ethan faced a massive chasm with no bridge. The only way across was a series of small floating platforms that moved unpredictably. He hesitated for a moment, knowing that a single misstep would mean death. Then, remembering everything he had learned from history and his training, he sprinted, jumped, and reached the other side with seconds to spare. The warriors gasped. They had never seen a human move like this. Many had died from much smaller challenges. And yet, this fragile creature, this human, seemed unstoppable, not because of power, but because of mind and courage. As the final trial approached, the arena shifted. Walls rose, a cage of steel and energy forming around him. At the center, waiting, was the apex warrior himself, Krylor. Massive, terrifying, yet calm. "You have survived far longer than any being ever has," Krylor said. His voice shook the arena. "But now it is your final test. Fight me or you die." Ethan knew the odds. No human had ever faced an apex warrior in combat and lived. His heart pounded, but his mind was steady. He studied Krylor's stance, his movements, his focus. Humans had something that even Krylor could not anticipate: creativity. The fight began. Krylor struck with enormous speed, his fists like meteor impacts. Ethan dodged barely, rolling across the ground, using every trick he knew. He did not match Krylor's strength, but he used misdirection, timing, and environment. Rocks, debris, and fallen pillars became tools in his hands. The warriors watching were silent. They had never seen such a fight. Not strength against strength, but mind against power. Every strike Ethan dodged, every move he countered was a statement. Humans were not weak. Humans were not prey. Finally, after a tense and exhausting battle, Ethan did something unexpected. He used a simple lever in the arena to topple a massive stone column, creating a barrier between him and Krylor. He did not attack directly. He survived. He endured. And he made the apex warrior pause. Truly pause. For the first time, Krylor looked at a human not with mockery, not with indifference, but with interest. This tiny creature had survived, had fought, had outsmarted challenges no one thought possible. The warriors whispered among themselves. Did he survive? How? Krylor's eyes, sharp and dangerous, met Ethan's. "You are different," he said slowly. "Perhaps humans are not what I thought." Ethan, exhausted, nodded slightly. He had survived part one of this impossible test. He had proven something, not to himself, not only to the warriors, but to the galaxy. Humans were not prey. Humans were unpredictable. Humans could survive. And as the arena doors closed, a new sense of curiosity filled the warriors. Something had shifted. A tiny spark had ignited. A spark that would soon change everything. No one laughed anymore. Not yet. But something had begun. Something that would make the galaxy look at humans in a way they never had before. The human had survived the unexpected turning point. And the story was only beginning. The galaxy had never seen a human move like Ethan. Even the apex warriors, beings who crush entire civilizations without thought, were beginning to question everything they knew about life's strength and courage. But survival was far from over. Krylor, the legendary apex warrior, knew the human had something unusual, something no other species had. Intelligence wrapped in fearless audacity. "You have passed the first stage," Krylor announced to the watching warriors. His voice was cold, but carried the weight of curiosity. But now the true test begins. The arena shifted, walls moved, and new structures rose from the floor. The ground trembled under the pressure of unseen machinery. What had been a static arena was now a labyrinth of steel and energy. Ethan's eyes scanned the environment. Every trap, every hidden threat would be more dangerous than before. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the anticipation of the challenge. From the shadows, creatures emerged. Unlike the first set of beasts, these were intelligent. They had strategy. They coordinated. One would distract, another would flank, a third would attack from above. Humans were not unfamiliar with strategy, but the coordination of these creatures was something Ethan had never seen. He moved quickly, analyzing the creature's patterns. Every step was deliberate. Every jump, every dodge was calculated. Yet he had to act fast. One wrong move, one split-second miscalculation, and he would not survive. The warriors above whispered among themselves. "He moves like a predator," one said. "No, he moves like a human, but faster, sharper." Ethan noticed a narrow path that led to a higher platform. If he could reach it, he could gain a better position to control the creature's movement. He sprinted, leaped, and barely avoided a claw that scraped his shoulder. Pain shot through him, but he ignored it. Survival demanded focus. Suddenly, a massive shadow passed overhead. From the ceiling, a gigantic flying beast swooped down. Its wings blocked out the arena lights, and its claws glimmered like molten metal. Ethan's heart raced. He could not fight it head-on. He ducked, rolled, and used a narrow passage to make it crash into a wall. The arena shook and dust filled the air. For a moment, silence fell. The warriors exchanged looks of disbelief. "He did not attack," one said. "He used the environment. He thinks differently." Ethan barely had time to breathe before the next challenge appeared. The floor beneath him split open, revealing a pit filled with energy spikes. Only a thin ledge ran across. He had to run, jump, and balance perfectly. One misstep, and he would die instantly. Step by step he moved. His mind was a machine, calculating timing, speed, and trajectory. He leaped over gaps, ducked under swinging blades, and slid past energy traps. The creatures from earlier tried to intercept him, but he used their momentum against them. He pushed one into a trap, dodged another, and reached the other side, bruised but alive. The arena changed again. A massive holographic map appeared, showing paths, traps, and creatures. Krylor's voice echoed. "Now you face your greatest challenge. Find the exit or perish." The path is alive. It changes. Only the clever survive. Ethan studied the map. It was a puzzle, shifting and twisting with every move he made. Each wrong path triggered traps, and each correct path opened more dangerous encounters. He could feel the tension in the air. His heartbeat synchronized with the arena's rhythm. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt distorted. Ethan's body ached, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had learned to anticipate the arena's tricks, to adapt instantly, to turn danger into opportunity. At one point, he faced a room filled with mirrors. His own reflections multiplied endlessly, and among them lurked deadly creatures. Ethan could not tell which was real and which was illusion. His mind raced. He focused, looking for subtle signs, the flicker of movement, the shadow of breathing. Step by step, he navigated through the mirrored maze, striking only when certain. The warriors watched silently. Even the bravest among them were starting to feel uneasy. This human, he is more than a survivor. He is a strategist, a thinker, a predator of the mind, one whispered. Ethan reached the central chamber. The arena's energy surged and a final challenge appeared. A massive, sentient machine, larger than any creature he had faced. Its arms moved independently, striking, blocking, and grabbing. It analyzed every move, adapting instantly to his actions. Ethan's body screamed in protest. His muscles burned, his lungs gasped, but he could not stop. He studied the machine, watching for patterns. He noticed that its left arm had a slight delay after a certain attack. Using that, he baited it, dodged its strikes, and struck at weak points. The machine roared but could not predict his ingenuity. The apex warriors above gasped. No being had ever lasted this long against the machine. They began to murmur, a mix of awe and disbelief. He's surviving, thinking. Suddenly, the machine created an energy cage around Ethan. He was trapped. The walls closed slowly, and the spikes within began to surge. Death was inevitable. Yet, he did not panic. He observed. He searched. And then he noticed a thin energy conduit running along the wall. Unstable, flickering, but real. With precise timing, he leaped onto it. Sparks flew as the conduit carried his weight. He slid, rolled, and used momentum to break free just as the cage closed. The arena shook violently, dust and energy filling the air. Ethan landed on the platform above, exhausted, bleeding, but alive. Silence fell. Even Krylor paused. No one had survived the arena's final test. And here stood a human. "You are remarkable," Krylor said, stepping forward. "I have underestimated your kind. But this is only the beginning. Your courage and mind are beyond what I thought possible." Ethan nodded, too tired to speak. He knew the human spirit had something unique: adaptability, courage, and unpredictability. It was not strength that defined survival here, but cleverness and heart. The other warriors looked at him differently now. The laughter and mockery were gone. Respect had begun to grow. A dangerous respect, one that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Humans, you are not weak," Krylor said, his voice echoing. "Perhaps you are more dangerous than we imagined." Ethan had survived the test, but he knew the journey was far from over. Ahead lay alliances, battles, and a chance to prove that humans were more than prey. They were capable of greatness, even among the apex of the galaxy. The arena gates closed slowly, and the human captain stood, bloodied but unbroken. A spark had been ignited in the heart of the apex warriors, and the galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the shadows a whisper spread. This human, he is not just surviving, he is changing everything. The arena had fallen silent. Ethan, the human captain, stood bloodied but unbroken. Around him, the apex warriors, creatures of unimaginable strength, watched with a mix of astonishment and curiosity. Never had a human survived such trials, let alone outsmarted their most feared machines and beasts. Yet, even as Ethan breathed heavily, the story was far from over. Survival alone was not enough. Now, a new challenge awaited, one that would test not only skill but trust, loyalty, and spark a connection between two very different species. Krylor, the apex warrior who had ruled the galaxy with iron strength, descended into the arena. His massive frame cast shadows over Ethan, yet his eyes were not filled with anger. They were filled with interest. "You have survived every challenge," Krylor said slowly, his voice like rolling thunder. "Few have ever lasted an hour. You have lasted a day, perhaps even more." Ethan wiped the blood from his brow. "I didn't come here to fight," he said. "I came to learn and maybe to show that humans can survive anything." Krylor studied him, silent for a moment. The arena trembled again, signaling the arrival of something new. From the shadows, a colossal machine, unlike any Ethan had seen, emerged. It was not alive, but it moved as if it had thought. Its purpose was simple: eliminate intruders. Its strategy, however, was complex. It could analyze, adapt, and counter almost any attack. "You will face it together," Krylor said, "but not alone." Ethan blinked. "Together?" he asked, glancing at the warriors around him. None of them moved to help. Krylor's massive hand pointed to a group of elite warriors. "You will fight alongside him. Learn if you can, or die trying." The elite warriors hesitated. Pride and ego had always defined them. The idea of following a human was unthinkable. Yet they obeyed. The machine advanced. Its claws tore the ground, sparks flying with every step. Its sensors glowed red, scanning for weaknesses. Ethan took a deep breath and assessed his allies. Unlike him, these warriors were strong and fast, nearly impossible to harm with ordinary attacks. But they lacked the human unpredictability. Ethan knew the key to survival was synergy, combining strength with cleverness. "Follow my lead," Ethan said. "We move as one. Watch for patterns. Adapt." At first, the warriors scoffed, but necessity forced them to pay attention. Ethan was quick to spot the machine's flaws, delays between attacks, predictable recovery patterns, and blind spots in its sensors. Using hand signals and gestures, he directed the warriors, telling them when to strike and when to retreat. The battle began. The machine lashed out, smashing pillars and rocks. Ethan rolled under its claws, throwing debris to distract it. One warrior lunged but was blocked. Ethan shouted, "No!" Wait for the timing. Strike together. Slowly, the warriors began to understand. The human was not just clever. He was a strategist, capable of coordinating attacks in real time. Step by step, the group adapted. They moved as a unit, covering each other's weaknesses, striking in harmony. Something unexpected happened. The warriors began to respect him, not for his strength. He had none compared to them. But for his mind, courage, and leadership, Krylor watched silently from above. This was something he had never seen before. A human leading apex warriors in combat. The machine grew furious. It adapted faster, predicting patterns, forcing the team to think even more creatively. Sparks flew. Pillars crumbled and the arena trembled. Ethan yelled, "Split! Don't let it corner us. Use the pillars." The warriors followed his commands instinctively. They realized that for the first time, a human was not prey. He was a guide, a leader, and in that realization, a bond began to form, not just between Ethan and Krylor, but among all the warriors who had once laughed at him. Hours, or perhaps minutes, time was meaningless. Passed as the machine adapted. It struck with relentless precision. But Ethan and the warriors had something it did not. Unpredictability. A sudden feint, a diversion, a calculated retreat. Each action forced the machine to make mistakes, and each mistake was exploited with deadly efficiency. Finally, the machine's energy core glowed erratically. Sparks flew as its systems overloaded. With a coordinated strike led by Ethan, it collapsed into a heap of molten metal. Silence fell over the arena once more. The warriors stared at Ethan, their expressions unreadable. For the first time, the laughter, the mockery, the pride, they were gone. Only respect remained. Krylor descended into the arena, his massive presence now less threatening, more contemplative. "You have done what no other being could," Krylor said slowly. "You fought, led, survived, and in doing so you have earned something rare." Ethan breathed heavily. "Earned? The bond," Krylor said. "The connection between strength and mind, courage and leadership. You have shown that humans are not weak. They are unpredictable, resilient, worthy." The other warriors, once mocking, now bowed slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. Something had shifted. They had seen a human not just survive, but elevate them all. They had seen a creature that refused to be prey, a being that could teach even the apex of the galaxy. Ethan felt a strange warmth. Not pride, this was different. This was understanding. The warriors were no longer enemies. They were partners in survival, at least for now. The bond had formed, fragile but real, like a spark in the darkness. Krylor's eyes met Ethan's, and for the first time, there was no judgment, no mockery, only recognition. "Perhaps," he said, "the galaxy has underestimated your kind for too long." Ethan nodded, exhausted but determined. He knew this was only the beginning. Trust had been earned, but challenges would continue. And as the arena doors opened, revealing a path deeper into the territory of the Apex Warriors, he realized that the bond he had formed today was the most powerful weapon he possessed. The galaxy watched silently. Somewhere, far beyond the arena, whispers spread. The human, he is not prey. He leads. He bonds. He survives. And in that moment, a truth became clear. Courage, intelligence, and empathy could be as deadly as strength. Humans had something the Apex Warriors could not calculate. Heart. As Ethan stepped forward with Krylor aside, and the warriors following, the arena seemed smaller. The impossible had become possible. And the galaxy, vast and indifferent, had begun to notice that a new force had emerged, one that could change the balance of power forever. No laughter remained, only anticipation, and a spark of respect that could ignite the entire galaxy. The bond had been formed, the test had been survived, and somewhere, deep within Krylor, a seed of curiosity had taken root, one that would lead to an alliance no one had foreseen, and a story the galaxy would never forget. The galaxy had never been silent before. Wars had echoed across stars. Planets had fallen, and empires had risen and crumbled. Yet now, a strange quiet settled over the territory of the Apex Warriors. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Humans, creatures once dismissed as weak and fragile, had survived impossible trials, outsmarted the apex of the galaxy, and earned a place no one thought possible. Ethan, the human captain, stood at the center of the arena, bloodied and tired, but unbroken. Beside him was Krylor, the legendary apex warrior, whose immense frame had once intimidated civilizations into obedience. Today, however, Krylor stood silently, observing the human with a gaze that mixed awe and respect. The arena doors opened a wider world beyond, a territory filled with apex warriors, elite soldiers, and creatures bred for combat. These warriors had once laughed at Ethan. Many had believed his species would not survive a single day. Yet here he was, alive and commanding attention, his presence demanding recognition. Krylor spoke, his voice resonating across the assembled crowd. "Warriors of the galaxy," he began, his tone solemn. "Today you have witnessed something extraordinary. You have seen a human survive trials none of you could endure. You have watched a creature of flesh and bone outthink and outmaneuver what you thought was a peak of power." The warriors were silent. Their laughter and arrogance had vanished, replaced with cautious curiosity. No one interrupted. For the first time, a human held the attention of the apex of the galaxy. Ethan stepped forward. His body ached from every challenge, every strike, every maneuver that had brought him to this moment. Yet his spirit burned brighter than ever. "I do not seek to rule," he said. "I do not seek to fight you unless forced. But humans, we fight for more than survival. We fight for honor, for connection, for the courage to protect what we care for. And if you allow it, we can fight together." A murmur spread among the warriors. They had never heard such words from a human. Not arrogance, not surrender, but something else. Something that resonated with the apex of the galaxy. Purpose, bravery, and heart. Suddenly, the skies darkened. From beyond the horizon, massive warships approached, their weapons glowing, engines roaring. Another threat, the kind that could wipe out entire planets, had arrived. The warriors tensed, instinctively preparing for battle. Yet Ethan stood calmly. "This is why I am here," he said. "We can fight them together." Krylor's eyes narrowed. The human's calmness was unnerving. The warriors looked at him, confused. But Ethan had a plan, a human's plan. He moved with precision, directing the apex warriors to form defensive positions, using the environment, their strengths, and his intelligence. The enemy forces attacked with everything they had. Massive energy beams, mechanized beasts, and fleets of ships descended upon the territory. It was chaos, destruction, and death, but Ethan had orchestrated it like a battle of chess. Every move, every counterattack, every maneuver was designed to maximize the warriors' strengths and exploit the enemy's weaknesses. The battle raged. Warriors who had once laughed at Ethan now followed his orders with precision. His strategies saved lives, turn attacks, and even create opportunities for counterstrikes. Humans had always adapted, but now they were doing so in real time, leading apex warriors in a fight no one thought possible. At one point, a massive energy cannon fired toward the central platform. Ethan, seeing the trajectory, shouted, "To the left!" Use the pillars for cover. The warriors followed, barely avoiding the strike, and counterattacked from the shadows. Sparks flew. Creatures screamed. Ships exploded. And yet Ethan moved like a conductor, orchestrating chaos into victory. Hours, or perhaps minutes. Time lost meaning in the heat of battle passed. The enemy began to falter. Their attacks grew uncoordinated. Their machines misfired. Something about humans, and this one in particular, had broken their rhythm, their confidence, their assumption of superiority. Finally, with a coordinated strike led by Ethan, the remaining forces fell. The battlefield was silent once again. Smoke and dust swirled. Bodies and broken machines scattered across the terrain. The apex warriors turned toward Ethan. For the first time, no one doubted his place among them. Krylor approached him slowly. "You have done what none thought possible," he said. "You fought, you led, and you survived. You have earned a place not just among humans, but among us as a brother." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. A warrior of legend, offering respect and kinship to a human. The apex warriors around him bowed slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. Respect had been earned through courage, intelligence, and unyielding spirit. The whisper spread across the galaxy. Humans are no longer prey. Humans are warriors, brothers to the apex. Ethan nodded. "I do not seek to command," he said softly. "But if we fight together, perhaps we can protect more than ourselves. Perhaps we can change the galaxy, not with fear, but with courage." Krylor extended his massive hand. Ethan stepped forward and clasped it. Strength met will. Respect met courage. A bond was formed that transcended species, size, and history. The apex warriors watched. Some still doubted. Some were in awe. But one thing was clear. The galaxy had shifted. The rules had changed. Humans were no longer a species to underestimate. In the days that followed, the news of the humans' victory and bond spread like wildfire. Across star systems, beings who had once scorned humans paused, reconsidered, and began to treat them with caution, respect, and sometimes fear. A new chapter had begun. A chapter where humans were no longer prey, no longer insignificant. Ethan, standing beside Krylo and the Apex Warriors, looked out over the stars. He had survived impossible odds. He had earned trust, respect, and a bond that could change the fate of civilizations. Yet he knew the journey was not over. There would be more battles, more threats, and more challenges. But now, humans had allies unlike any they had ever known. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a whisper spread. The humans, they fight with courage. They think with strategy. They bond with heart. They are no longer just survivors. They are brothers of the apex. For the first time in galactic history, laughter had ceased. Where once there had been mockery, now there was silence. And where there had been doubt, now there was awe. Ethan had done what no human, or any other being, had done before. He had not just survived. He had inspired. He had led. He had become a legend. And the galaxy, vast and infinite, would never forget the day humans stood as equals among the apex. The bond was unbroken. The legacy had begun. The story of humans as brothers would echo across the stars forever.